For the second week of my collection of ideas, I decided to focus on a little bit of different stuff from the first week. Although I did not do the first week's YouTube update for last week, I just want to talk about that briefly real quick because I feel as though the information that I picked for the first week was definitely not as good as the information that I picked for the second week, and only because I feel like we are learning as we go. And without having, just the first week I was trying to test a lot of things out and just try and see if different things would work, and kind of I didn't have a great idea of what you were looking for. But then this week I kind of like, after talking to you and talking to some of my friends, I realized that we definitely get a better idea of what to use. And so for this 9 weeks, I read this essay about are humans naturally good or bad, and it was definitely an interesting article because it talked about whether it went back to like the id, superego, and ego with our subconscious, and kind of how there's like good and bad in everyone. But it made this interesting point that maybe that everyone is good and bad in some ways, but those changes are prompted by the environment or basically situation that we're in. And so I thought that was really interesting because it gave me a new perspective to look on when thinking about it. And then I also read this character analysis of Jack from Lord of the Flies by William Golding, which is a book that I've read. So I decided to read that because the essay really, after analyzing it, I really got to see a lot more of like some things that I had missed, and I also got a new perspective of Jack that, yeah, I had picked up on, but it was also something that wasn't necessarily set in stone. So it was definitely good for me to see that. And I also picked to do a poem this week, and I thought that was really good. It was called The Flood by Robert Frost, and it actually dealt with like blood and how we cannot contain the blood. And so I related that and kind of talked about the humans and how we cannot stop the evil on Earth. There's always going to be evil people. And the last thing that I want to talk about that I thought was interesting was the photograph that I chose to analyze, because I feel as though that photograph, where there was an angel and a devil sitting on a man's shoulder, and I feel like that was really interesting because that's kind of like the good and bad telling us to do something in life, whether it's like we want to do something and give in to temptation, or we really do want to take the good route and then not give in to temptation. It's just really interesting the way that our minds work. And so I feel like that photograph was definitely interesting, and it was like good to go off of because I could really relate that to my topic. And in the end, I want my research paper to be about how the protagonist does have negative qualities, and if you can relate that to people and the authors, I feel like that is going to really help me, because that really, the author's perspective goes into the making of the character. So it really does, in the end, work together.